What about the people that say, well, everybody's built differently, so everybody should kind of look and move differently, and all this corrective exercise stuff is kind of a waste of time?
They don't read research. Like I can't, they're wrong. This is not a debate. I'm tired of having the debate. There is a lot of cocky young new grads who think they're on the evidence-based tip, and they learned something in school, and meanwhile they haven't really spent the time going through the original research themselves. When you look at the actual research on structural variation, we're pretty much all the same, right? Now, people point to a study and be like, look, there's variation, blah, 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 blah. Yes, there is variation within one standard deviation of an average range. So that really is the key. Again, this goes back to people want binary answers to probabilistic issues, right? So hip morphology is the big one that keeps coming up. There is absolutely no evidence that, number one, changing your foot position has anything to do with your hip morphology, and number two, that we're all structurally different at our hips. What the research does show is that about 92 to 94% of us fall within one standard deviation of this range, which maybe, let's say, is 10 degrees of anteversion retroversion. Like it's within 10 degrees. 10 degrees are tiny, right? We all fall within this little thing, right? You could probably, although the research hasn't done this yet, it's probably normally distributed. You guys remember bell curves, right? And the normal distribution. People want to act like our variation between us is 2-3 standard deviations apart. Like there's no normal distribution. If that was true, we would not be successful as a species. Like if you were as likely to come out with genu varis, structural genu varis, as you were to be normal, we wouldn't.
Yeah.
If you were as likely to have a scoliosis as not, how would we, if you were as likely to be retroverted as normal in your hip, like how would we have made it as a species? We would have a bunch of dysfunctional individuals who couldn't perform. And what you actually find is most of us move almost identically. Now, that's not to say that there isn't some variation, but again, it's within this narrow average, right? Are me and you built the same way? Well, not exactly, but do me and you move pretty much the same? Yeah, on a macro level, absolutely. Like if you look at our gait patterns, we pretty much walk the same way. And then you have to ask yourself, and this goes back to correlations and probabilities, which has a stronger correlation with changing your movement pattern? Structural differences or soft tissue changes, right? Which is more likely to be off? The 6 to 8% who have structural deviation outside of our mean average, or the very common occurrence of having trigger points in your calf, losing some of your dorsiflexion because your calves are overactive, or losing some of your dorsiflexion because your tibialis anterior isn't functioning as well as it should because of those inhibitory signals that we talked about, or your gluteus medius is being inhibited because you've had knee pain in the last 2 months. Which of those has a higher correlation? And then what I really hate about this whole freaking discussion is their answer, right? Their practical application to this fight that we're all different is, by the way, you're structurally effed for life.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do about
it. Nothing. So just go ahead and compensate and deal with it right now. You suck. You're going to suck. It's always going to suck. Rather than, okay, tell me which one of these is the more positive look, right? And the funny thing is they like to flip this argument. They like to gaslight us and go, well, you're just labeling everybody as dysfunctional. No, you just labeled them structurally abnormal. I don't know how one of those is better than the other, but you labeled everybody as dysfunctional. No, dysfunctional is the way we refer to it as professionals. When I talk to a client, I go, here's some potential solutions, or here's some potential exercises that might make you feel better. That's it. I don't label anybody as anything. And because I am convinced, because I've read the research, because I look at the research, that the correlation between soft tissue issues changing the way we move is much stronger than structural differences, I'm going to use this whole bag of corrective exercises as potential solutions. There's got to be something in that bag that's going to make me feel better.